All right, guys, here we are today, Wednesday, February 22nd, 2023. It's been a while since I've talked to the gentleman. To give a preface, a backstory, I met Joaquin Zeledon back in 2014. I came for an interview in not a high rise, a mid rise in Brickell. Beautiful office, amazing office, and we had a nice, good chat. Then we had a Zoom interview as well, I remember. You were at home. And then I got hired for this job, and then my life did change quite a bit. You were the managing director at Lioness back in 2014.
That's right.
That's right. I was a marketing manager. I remember um, we worked for about a year, I would say, give or take.
Yeah, very intense year.
Yes, it was a very intense year. There's no doubt about that. I mean, I used to remember your office. The office was a huge office. It used to be a walk from me from my place to your place, and to pass that elevators. And I used to drop by quite a bit, just giving you the updates to what's happening. And we bonded pretty well. We joined a race together. Your wife was there. My wife came too. We did a 5K, I think, together.
Yeah, I think we did. We did the 5K. I think it was the Mercedes Benz.
Yes, right, in Weston.
Yeah, in downtown Brickell. Yeah.
Yes. And I remember I had no kids back then, and I was, married for 3, 4, 5 years, and I used to get a lot of advice from you about having kids in the future. And by the way, that advice now pays off quite a bit, quite a bit. Joaquin, I just was, just jump in your background. I was amazed by your story and Dara's story too. And I'm gonna have her on this eventually too, your wife, because her story is amazing as well.
Your story's
But
a lot better than mine.
you know what? I have to admit that she's definitely a hero and a pioneer in my book. So I salute her. But starting with you, you're born and raised in Costa Rica.
That's right. I was born and raised in Costa Rica, and many generations of Costa Ricans. So I'm 100% Costa Rican.
Okay.
I moved here to the States to pursue my master's after I already had gotten my undergraduate in engineering. So
okay,
I was already in my 20s, early 20s.
Yeah.
And from there on, it was it's where life is taking you little by little, and even though we set a plan and I had my plans and things to do, if I look at what I had really originally thought of my life, nothing is the way it was originally planned. So life is going and rolling with the punches. That's all about. That's what it's all about.
It's so funny you say that. So my plan in 2014, when I met you, I was so impressed by your experience, your position. I want to be a managing director by 40. That's my thing. That's the role I had on my vision board, managing director, and life, brings you where it wants to bring you, right?
Right. Right.
What you come from middle class, high class family, or what type of family you belong to?
I would say middle upper. I was my dad was a doctor in Costa Rica, and obviously, he had also studied abroad, so he was exposed to other cultures, which was something that he pushed hard on us. We were four of us. We're four of us, and it was always pushing us to become professional. So in our house, basically there was no entrepreneurship. There was many generations of professionals. My grandfather was a lawyer, a doctor, I'm sorry, also, and my great grandfather was a lawyer. So it's been a long line of professionals, not so much entrepreneurs or people that had done business on the side. It's more of being following a career, studying, and then working on that profession.
To the day you retire, and then off the sunset.
You retired, and your whole definition of who you are becomes that career, that degree you got, and you are one with that career or degree that you got. Your doctor, your you're a lawyer, you know. So that was the way that I was raised. It was always that way. So when I went, I got my engineering. It was very interesting because I got an engineering degree, but I really never really saw myself as an engineer. I never really wanted to be an engineer. As a matter of fact, I think I never worked as an engineer because then I got my master's and ended up working in finance. Took me into a path of working in different banks, but it was never an engineer. I never really used my engineering degree to give myself to define myself, you know. So it was interesting.
Well, I want to take you there quickly. So my brother-in-law, my wife's Saima, her brother is an engineer, and I talked to him about this quite a bit. So you were one. I had three engineers as bosses, superiors that studied engineering but never did it, and all three of them were entrepreneurs. One of them, including you. I just think there's a pattern there how the brain probably works. You probably use some of the philosophies of engineering to apply it to what you do now, did it before. Does that makes any sense?
Yeah, well, one of the things that comes, you know, with engineering is that you have to do a lot of math. You have to study a lot of maths, and so if you don't like math, you don't want to be an engineer. That's number one definition. Or if you're not good in math, um, so a lot of being an entrepreneur. That's one of very good question you're asking me is being good with numbers and being not afraid of numbers, not necessarily being good. Anyone can be good. You don't need to be a high level, a high achiever in math to be able to be a good entrepreneur. But you do need to have numbers and you need to have metrics, which is one very important thing when you're an entrepreneur. And as an engineer, you do develop the discipline of being able to assess what are those metrics and what are the things that you got to be measuring, you know, and how often you're supposed to measure them to see if there's trends, if there's things that you need to change. And those things came very handy to me when I decided to go into my own business, you know, which is what we're doing right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I figured, but I saw a pattern there, and I'm like, you know what? One day I'm gonna ask you about that. So, engineering background, got a master's, went to working for banks. How old are we now? 25, 26?
I started early. I was 24 years old when I started working for a bank in Costa Rica, and it's interesting because it was I was interviewing for to work in companies that would use my engineering background, and the one that I was attracted and the one that I was most and that I ended up working for was this bank. I never really saw myself working in a bank, and they saw something, or at least they knew better than myself, at least that were and that kind of engineering. Mine is an industrial engineering, which that field is very appealing to banks, or were very appealing. You got to remember back then you're talking about the Six Sigma philosophy, you know, zero defects, being able to do all these things in customer service, and that was very appealing. Total quality control. There were terms that were very used back then, and the industrial engineer brings all those into any field that you go into. So that 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 was where I was introduced to banks and how I ended up looking how that degree could work in that field. And that's how my career really got started in the back office, I would say, of a bank, the
Okay.
operation side of the bank, and little by little move on to being in management, which is what I ended up doing, you know.
And then what was the next step in that journey after that? What'd you get it to?
Well, from there I went to another bank and I ended up working and then that's where the funny thing, because you obviously start defining yourself now not so much for the degree that you have, but more defining yourself in reference to the career path that you have. So you start making a reputation, and now you're a banker. You know, you're a banker. So you want to stay within that realm of business. You're a banker, you're a credit card guy, you're good with finance. You want to stay there. So that's where little by little you start developing your resume that is going to open up doors for you in that industry. And that's what I did. I did it for I went from this bank in Central America, which is back then it was called Credomatic, to Citibank, then to American Express, and then again to Citibank, and then again to the Credomatic Bank. That's a little bit of where my first, I would say, 15 years of my life were in the banking and in credit card industry. I would say credit card or payment industry, where I kind of made a reputation. You looked at my LinkedIn back then; it was very focused in that kind of industry. And then little by little, I started breaking away. That's in 2008, and that's when I started kind of going in a different direction.
2008. So that's about 6 years before we met. Okay. So
Yeah.
you were now in Miami, 2008, Fort Lauderdale?
2008 is where, talking about the life of an entrepreneur, you have to go through your ups and downs. And that's one thing that one of the things that I think you and I spoke many times in my office. Life many times is about taking chances. And when I left my 2008, 2007, I think it was, I left the bank in the last time. I went in the direction of trying to start my own business. My first attempt to do something that was a little big, which had to do with mobile payments in 2007. Mobile payments were very much, right now everybody talks about them. Everybody knows about Zelle. Everybody knows about Venmo, PayPal. But back then it was something that didn't exist. And I was really doing a lot of research of what was going on in third world countries, in Africa and different places. And I thought, this is perfect for the market where I was at, and that was in Panama. And we went on with a venture, and we did a lot of work on that direction, but then eventually it did not go as planned. And that was one of those experiences or lessons that you get from that every single entrepreneur has to go through, which is failing, and it's not about failing. It's about, making, rethinking what you did wrong and doing it better next time you're going to do it. So it is the life of an entrepreneur. So in 2008, I went back to the workforce, and this time I went trying to break away a little bit from the finance. I didn't want to follow that career anymore, just and be boxed into just banking and finance, and went into exploring different other areas, which is how we ended up meeting in Lioness, where I was hired to be the managing director for the operation here in Americas, and that was very, very enriching for me. Every single job has been a learning experience for me, but I always had it in the back of my mind that I wanted to do something of my own. And we had tried many different efforts in starting something from scratch. One thing I really, by now we're talking, I'm in my mid 40s, and I'm thinking, I have tried many times to start a business from zero. That many times in the entrepreneurs, we think we got to start from scratch. That's a real entrepreneur. Not really. Many times, in my case, I realized that I was better improving operations. In other words, I didn't have to be getting a business from the early stage. I could get a business that was already a proven concept and just improve on it. And that's where I found my niche. I really am good at grabbing something that's already working and improving it and taking it to the next level, scaling it up, taking it to the growth stages that becomes really appealing to others. And that was a very enlightening moment, because when we did that, we said, what we got to do is buy a company. We don't need to start something from scratch. So we bought a business, and that's how we ended up buying Black Pearl Limousine in 2016.
So let's go back to that. That's a very interesting story. I see you on social media. I see you guys working hard. See you guys doing amazing stuff. So let's go pull back 1 second. And I don't know how much we can talk about Lioness, whatever, but I don't even want to talk about Lioness as much. Lioness was a good story. So we met 1 year together. You were in mid-40s in Lioness, about give or take.
Yeah, in 2000, I'm right now 56, and in Linus was in 2012. I think it was, yeah, I was 45. I was 45. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I'm 40, I'm turning 41 next month. So I cannot put in perspective. I'm almost at that age that you were back then. It's interesting. I have two kids. I don't have you have five or six?
I have five
Okay,
kids.
yeah. I'm working on a third one, man. So, but
You can always beat me. Don't worry.
yeah. Um, with that being said, I remember you talking about a lot about entrepreneurship. You're talking about a lot of ups and downs. Um, Obviously, the way Linus ended for you and I both was very abrupt. I think we were doing a good job. We had a vision together. You being my superior were amazing. Like I said, you impacted my life. After that, I know I lost touch with you a little bit, and then boom, I heard, your company coming up. Was those 2 years you would say something you had like a lot of time for yourself to reflect and then come up with Black Pearl thing and take it over?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. During that period of time, it was an opportunity for me and Dara, because it's very important. My wife Dara, she's any entrepreneur if you want to be an entrepreneur, you gotta sign up your whole family, and most importantly your wife. They gotta be
Your spouse.
on the same page on this, because it's something that is going to be a group effort. It's not going to be just you trying to do it on your own. And if you do it, it's going to take a toll on the family. So Dara and I were definitely on the same page. We took calculated risks. We assessed our situation. We said, well, we've always said that we want to do this, and I think this is the opportunity. This is the chance. So we did several things. We started researching what we liked, what we thought could be a good business that could be scaled, and that can be something that can eventually have a legacy for our kids, because that's really, you got to find your why. You got to find what are you doing it for. You're not doing it just to be rich. If you're only thinking about becoming rich, it's not really the way of going on any in business endeavor, or at least not if you're already a mature person. So you got to find what's the reason why you want to do it, and then try to narrow it down. We looked at, believe it or not, I was not looking for that huge company to buy. We were looking for a small business, because in my experience and what I had seen is that small businesses in the US can really benefit from someone who had the corporate experience like mine, and get that all that understanding and discipline that you carry on, and bring it to the next level. That's basically what I realized by doing some consulting with small businesses. I said, look, you have the expertise, you know how to sell, you know how to, you have the passion. And I call them the 3 Ps that Napoleon Hill on his book Think and Grow Rich says. You gotta have the patience, you have to have the persistence and the perspiration. But they didn't have the skills to do the accounting, to plan ahead, or to have the metrics, or to really understand what customer service standards are, and all those things that I knew from the corporate world, and I would bring it into their small businesses, and boom, the results were magnified. And that's what I realized that I could do if I just buy a company, not necessarily a company that's in distress, but a company that I could assess really quickly, see that's healthy, and try to improve it. And that's what we did. How did we ended up looking at Black Pearl? It's many times is serendipitous, in a very serendipitous way. We were looking at to buy a different company, and we didn't buy it last minute, but we had already seen 3 or 4 companies. This other company that we were we already vested almost 4 months in the due diligence and analysis and paperwork and legal, and we didn't buy it. So that deal fell through. We ended up with this other one on the table, and we moved things really fast because keep in mind, I don't know, one of the things about the entrepreneurship is, cash, you're burning cash. If you're not making money, you're burning cash every single day. We jumped into this opportunity kind of on a boat of trust, and really, we did our due diligence, but it was something that we could see ourselves doing it. So that will be the other P that you got to find in any business, which is the passion. If you see that you can have the passion doing that, then there's no problem. Because if you can have the passion, if you can do it, then the other 3 Ps, obviously will work. But so we went into this business. Very interesting story, and this is probably one very good story to tell any entrepreneur. It's not like it was a bed of roses from the moment we started. I mean, we had the deal on the table. We were already agreed on the price, how we were going to finance it, by the way, we sold our house to buy this company. So we took a major leap of faith. You got to remember, you got to put skin in the game. If something is not costing you, you're not gonna find that passion. So we sold our house. We started renting, and we used that cash to buy this company. So, that's that, and we didn't. It wasn't enough to pay for the whole company. We financed the rest of the purchase. So you got to be thinking about how to structure that deal. But that's another story. The deal is that when we were signing, and this is a story that I tell my kids all the time, because I want them to understand how things are not so easy as they see them right now. We were at my lawyer's office, ready to sign all the documents. This is October of 2015. The seller, myself, his lawyer, and my lawyer, and we are there, already signed like 10 pages of documents, and my lawyer says something to my counterpart, the seller, and pisses him off. The guy, I don't want to go into detail what he said,
Sure.
but he said something that the seller just looked at him straight into the eyes and said, "I'm not selling." And he got up and walked away. Literally got up and walked away. And I'm looking at my lawyer like, "Why did you say that?" And he's like, "I did you a favor. This company is like, you first of all, my lesson there was be careful with the lawyers. Many times they can ruin your deal in 2 seconds. Second of all, why would he have to say that? This is just absolutely negligent on his part. And I'm having one of those moments where is it true? Is this happening or not happening? I mean, this is unbelievable. We had worked for almost a month on this deal. Checks were ready. Everything was going the way, and this guy just ruined the deal. So my thought process was, okay, I can either decide that this was meant to be, that this deal was not meant to be, or I can still pursue it. And I said, I went back home, I spoke to Dara, and she's like, "Oh, Mazel tov, we got the deal done." Like, no, you are never going to believe what just happened. And like, what happened? And I told her, and she's like, "Okay, so what are we doing now?" I'm like, "Here's what we're going to do. We're going to have to get back to the table and see if we can save this deal, because I do believe I have that P of passion on this business. I'm already committed to it. I like it. I know what I want to do. I see all the things that I can do." So I called the seller and I said, "Listen, let's you and me talk privately. Let's solve this, you and me, and that, nobody else. No lawyers, no accountants, no one in it, because you want to sell and I want to buy, and we can make this deal happen." And that's what we did. We sat down, we did our conversation, we had our time, and we got it to work. And 5 years later, I had paid the letter that I had, the loan that I had taken for the business, and the business is 7 years later, we're 3 times the size of what it was when we bought it. So it's it's a little story that I like to tell people
Love
because
it.
that could have been a moment where our destiny could have taken a different route. And sometimes you got to be clear of where
Vision.
what you really want to do. And sometimes you can find many times excuses just to not do something. Oh, well, it wasn't meant to be. Oh, you know, it was God sent that this happened. No, no. If you really know what you want, go for it and go for it with a passion. And that's the way we do it.
That's an amazing story, man. Joaquin, question for you, a few questions. This thing you said right now, because I hear that quite a bit, right? Like I'm from the Muslim faith, you're Jewish, very similar. We talk about our religion many times. I hear like, oh, well, God is giving you some pushback because doesn't want you to go in that direction. So, maybe you should walk away and not go here and try this. You're saying the opposite. You're saying,
Well,
listen, there's some resistance, but if your vision is there and everything is written out, planned, everything's there, go against it, work around it.
well, that's I'm glad you're bringing up the religion. That's sometimes the religion is very wise in your religion is root. So it all stems from the same, and in many things there are lessons there that teaches us. Many times you push with the left and bring back with the right. So that happens in many different circumstances. You push softly with the left, but then you bring back with the right hand. You really want to see how badly you want something by pushing it away, and if it comes back because they really wanted it. And that is the lesson I got from there. You many times in life you feel a rejection, you can't close a deal, you find obstacles, but really the harder you work and the more uh, adversity that you have many times is the more rewarding the moment of success comes, because you really struggle. And it's not just about one instance. As an entrepreneur, you're going to find that's going to happen many times. And it's really that being an entrepreneur is not for everybody. And I don't want this to become an endorsement for everybody to become an entrepreneur. It is something where you got to decide and where your tolerance for risk is, and also decide how much you enjoy a steady planned life, because thank God there's people who like that and they have their whole future planned and it works for them. But in my case, and I see in yours also, you want to take chances, you want to take risks, and sometimes those risks are going to not always play the way that you want them to be, but it is part of what our DNA is telling us, and that's one thing that I have realized. I also saw that you got to learn to not always take uncalculated risks. You got to take risks, but not put all your eggs in one basket. You got to be able to diversify, take chances without putting, because that's one of the first lessons I learned was if you go the whole passion, and you think blindly about something, you put all your eggs in one basket, you might end up burned, which happened to me, in
Yeah.
2008.
So last question before we go off. I know your lifestyle back at Lioness was something like, I mean, the suits, the watch, the Mercedes Benz, man. I was so into like buying suits after that. The lifestyle was amazing. Traveling, to world. You went to Mexico, Canada, you went to Austria. You had this amazing lifestyle, and then boom, one fine day, you turn in your badge, so to speak, and you walk away. And you're doing really well now. How was that transition from here to now, being ahead of your business?
And you gotta understand one very important thing. In 2008, again, I was in 2008, and still when I was in line, as you're still following the corporate lifestyle. the corporate lifestyle is very appealing for a lot of people, and yes, you can make a good living, and thank God again, you can follow the corporate ladder and just become extremely and be very successful.
Yeah.
My gotta every single person has to define what their definition of success is. I could have been dressing up in suits and in traveling, but I was not. I don't enjoy traveling for business. I enjoy traveling with my family. You know, I don't enjoy getting up in the morning and putting on a suit and driving an hour and a half to work, even though it's a Mercedes or whatever. You know, because that is not fun for me. I enjoy, you know, and I'll tell you what I enjoy now. I like to enjoy and waking up and exercising in the morning and making my appointments whenever I want, and not have to have a review meeting or a weekly meeting with my staff every so often. Just that very organized schedule. My life now is my ride is a motorcycle. I enjoy riding. You know, that's the win in my face. That's the kind of lifestyle that I wanted to have. Not that traveling for business and going to these different places on business because you know it's beautiful and everything, you know, or at least it's appealing, and it was appealing to me because when you're younger, it's a good life. And with the American Express and Citibank, I also traveled all over the world, but again, it's very different when you're traveling with your family, when you're traveling with your wife, and those things are the ones that I started saying to myself, how can I do this, but now doing it on my tab and with the people that I want, and that's where my why it starts getting clearer and clearer as I move forward. And again, I made several attempts to break away from the corporate world. Early in my first attempt was in 2000 when I left Citibank in Florida, but and again, you fall back in what's comfortable, a paycheck that pays well, a lifestyle that looks glamorous, a status that comes with that, and many times you can find yourself more and more trapped, because this is a very good point. The more you go up the corporate ladder, the harder it is to break away, because you have more and more, you have to find yourself with that lifestyle, with that identity, and you have to, it's then making that change is almost impossible. I'm telling you honestly, when I first broke away from that, I couldn't understand. It was difficult for me to get up in the morning and not have a structure. It was very difficult for me not to right away shower and get dressed. I'm like, wait. I don't need to. I don't have to go anywhere. I'm like, but my wife kept thinking that I like that structure. It took me a year to be able to really break away from that. I'm like, wait, I don't need to be having to shave myself every morning. Wait, you need to? No, I don't, you know. Okay, so why are you shaving every morning? You know, that kind of things were dawning on me as I was making that identity shift, that little by little became my lifestyle. And you can be equally as efficient, but breaking away from that structure that came with the corporate world.
It's amazing. That's, I mean, that's just like, and I saw that on Facebook. I'm like, man, he's living a different lifestyle, like a very different lifestyle, you know, with that beautiful outfit looking over there. And you're 100% right, my friend. You know, my story a little bit about it, but I was incorporating and, you know, one fine morning changed it. But we have a few more minutes left. Tell us about Black Pearl Limousine. So where do you guys service? Is it South Florida, Central Florida? Where are you guys right now?
Well, Black Pearl Limousine, and that's the word limousine is deceiving because people think it's just a limousine business. We're really a concierge transportation company. We do everything from taking people to the airports, to the seaports, but also we take people out at night for dinner, and in groups that want to go to ball games or want to go to concerts. But also we take kids that want to go out to a ball game, and then, you know, there's a travel team that goes to Orlando. So we do everything from bar mitzvahs, quince años, and big weddings. Weddings is one of our specialties, all over South Florida, but concentrated, I would say 80% of our business coming out of Palm Beach. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's amazing stuff. Beautiful. I'm
It's a-
gonna go
it's-
ahead. Go ahead.
It's a company that basically, if I just could tell you, my wife is the one who runs it. She's the one who is the CEO. And that is one of the happiest moments in my life, was when I was able to just kind of, realize that my family can, be on their own without me. Just one big burden that I always, had.
You
And that
felt
when I get into going into my why, my why, and why I always wanted to find my a legacy, was so that my family can be in a financial situation where they can carry on without me if I'm ever missing.
that's
So
beautiful.
that my wife runs it, she does it, and there's a whole team running the business, and I'm kind of just there helping a little bit every now and then.
Beautiful. Well, Joaquin, a pleasure as always. We're out of time almost. Thank you for joining us this morning. Appreciate you very much. This will be aired on YouTube. I'll give you my channel. I'm going to share with the team and your family. And next time in South Florida, I'm going to stop by. We have to have a lunch, a coffee, or I eat lunch in a catch-up session. So
Absolutely, we got to do it. Herm, thank
awesome,
you so
sir.
much. Appreciate it,
Salute you,
and
sir.
I'm also
Thank you.
very proud of you.
Thank
Keep
you.
up the good job.
That means a lot to me coming from you. It really does.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joaquin. We'll be in touch, my friend.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.